So today, like a lot of people around the UK watching the EU-UK summit, I say a lot of people, but I guess I mean those of us that voted Brexit, maybe people that support Brexit afterwards, or who are just Democrats. Like a lot of these people, I feel pretty miserable really watching this Keir Starmer EU summit and watching him sell us out, and also just not really care that people voted by majority for Brexit. You know, he wanted a second referendum in the past, but now he's just thought, well, no, now I'm Prime Minister, I'll do what I want. And if you complain too much, perhaps you'll get a little knock on the door from the police. But anyway, in this video, I wanted to talk about how did we get here? Well, I think a lot of it comes down to foreign interference. And what I found when I'm researching funding networks is perhaps the most ardent Remainer on the planet is George Soros. And that's the US billionaire philanthropist. And just to add that philanthropy is when you're a foreign funder, but you're good because you pay for left-wing things, yeah? And if you don't do that and you've got money, or if you're just, say, offering to pay a right-wing party or suggesting it, as Elon Musk did, about reform, that makes you far-right fascist. But yeah, left-wing foreign interference equals philanthropy. Anyway, that being said, there are several groups that I think a lot of people will know pretty well when it comes to EU interference, wanting to rejoin the EU. And that is Best for Britain, the European Movement, and Scientists for EU. So Best for Britain has been awarded just under £4 million from George Soros. And they haven't really liked it when I've talked about this online. In fact, they've blocked me from Twitter. Really interesting, that. Then the European Movement has had £200,000, but it's also worth saying it has an international wing. So I'm just talking about 200,000 to the UK wing, but it goes much wider than that. And Scientists for EU has had 35,000 from George Soros. And one man called Mike Galsworthy works for the European Movement and Scientists for EU, and he has been lobbying all about this EU youth mobility scheme for months now, and a lot of people might not have even realised, but these groups have been quietly beavering away. The electorate mostly has no idea this is going on until the actual day of the summit, when we all think, what the hell? So even Best for Britain, to reiterate, the group that's had about £4 million in funding in April, it said the UK EU reset is 1 month away. So it was really excited. And Femi Olawale, who has said before on air that he is funded by Best for Britain, which has had, to reiterate, 4 million from George Soros, could be found on Good Morning Britain today talking about this deal. And what do you reckon? Do you reckon that they asked him, who funds you, Femi, as they would have done if he worked for the IEA or any right-wing think tank? Well, no, it's different, remember, because left-wing philanthropy, good, right-wing, always evil and bad. So yeah, all of them have been banging on about the UK EU mobility scheme. Galsworthy, Femi, and another one who's been really overjoyed about it is Sadiq Khan. And what people talk about less with Sadiq Khan is he is co-chair of C40 Cities. And this is a global alliance of cities entered into this awful agreement with all these rich funders that perhaps have shares in the environmental eco movement, but really have a lot of interest in making all our cities livable and green. Anyway, Soros also funds them, and you know, Sadiq Khan's been quite a big talker in these deals about the, you know, he's sort of been quoted like the Mayor of London as if he's like some sort of head of the UK, you know, like as if he's some global figure, like leader of the UN, but Sadiq Khan, mayor of London. You know, it's just, he's just being elevated a lot, especially given that he governs a city that looks like utter crap. And that is all, it's all linked together, the funding. So what's the conclusion to this? Well, it's just a bit ironic that when Brexiteers were accused of having their brains fried by foreign interference by way of Russia, that when I find, or it's not even me, other people know about this as well, that when we can see that Soros is driving the EU lobby movement, it just doesn't even register. It's just not a news story. You know, it tells you a lot about the media, how lobbying is such a big exercise. And I do find it interesting, given that Soros is the billionaire who broke the Bank of England. Why is he so ardent about Remain? But anyway, to leave on a positive note, I think these are the strands that we need to pursue. Yes, today is depressing and unfair, but we've the right, and I count myself part of that, for years we've written opinions, we've said how bad things are, but let's actually understand why they're bad, and that means pulling out all the networks, because the only way we can fix it is tearing them out. So yeah, anyway, I am with everyone that's feeling a bit sad today, but that is the main driving force behind it.